Namaskar, friends. Hello, and wishing you all a very, very happy New Year, happy 2022, and a healthy 2022, most importantly. And Ashwini, welcome back
Thank
after a
you.
gap of a month.
Yeah.
And wish you also
Namaste.
a very happy New Year. Namaste.
Thank
And
you. And same to you.
yes, and we are back today with our listeners with episode number 9 of Kabiriyat.
Yeah,
And
that's
of
right.
course, I now hand it over to Ashwini, who will
Thank you, Manoj.
uh, tell us more in detail about the episode. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. And
Yes.
it's been such a great pleasure doing these sessions. And now we are on to session number 9. And the theme of today's session is purpose of life. And we
Purpose
are
of life.
choosing, yes, and we are choosing a poem by Saint Kabir, which obviously you'll hear it later from Manoj, in a beautifully composed musical style. But the words are something that I would like to focus on for now. And the words are, Hansa karo puratin baat. कौन देश से आया हंसा उतरना कौन घाट कहाँ हंसा विश्राम किया है कहाँ लगाई आस अब ही हंसा चेत सवेरा चलो हमारे साथ संशय शोक वहां नहीं व्यापे नहीं काल के त्रास यहाँ मदन वन फूल रहे हैं आवे सो हम बास मन पौरा जिहे अरुष रहे हैं सुख की न अभिलाष.
Wow.
This was the Hindi version of the original poem by Saint Kabir.
And the
And this
interesting
is,
thing is, there is no Kahet Kabir in this. Huh? That's pretty interesting. It's one of the rare poems of Kabir Das ji that I've heard, written by him, but which doesn't say his name like it does in
yeah,
all his other poems. So that's
yeah, you're right
very
about
nice.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally we get Kahe Kabir.
Kahe Kabir, yes.
Yeah, we don't have that here.
Yes,
And
yes.
and that's another, you're actually opening another sort of topic of discussion because there are a lot of theories about, whether Saint Kabir's poems were all written by him or whether they were written by some of his followers and passed
Followers.
on as
Right.
the poetry of Kabir. Because all of this poetry was passed on orally, right? So
Yes.
depending on who knew which poem, you get a big collection of Saint Kabir's poems.
Correct.
Unless they
Correct.
are part of, let's say, Guru Granth Sahiba has a lot of writing of
Of Kabir Sahab.
Saint
Yes.
Kabir. Yeah, so that
Yes.
we know is definitely by him. But
By
there
him.
are these controversies about Saint Kabir's poetry.
Right, right.
So this poem, we believe, is the official poem by Saint Kabir, and partly because it also occurs in the book by Nobel laureate Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore in his 100 Poems of Kabir. And
Wow.
his English translation is as follows. He translates it as, Tell me, O swan, your ancient tale. From what land do you come, O swan? To what shore will you fly? Where would you take your rest, O swan? And what do you seek? Even this morning, O swan, awake, arise, follow me. There is a land where no doubt nor sorrow have ruled, where the terror of death is no more. There the woods of spring are ablue, and the fragrance scent, he is I, quote unquote, is borne on the wind. Sometimes I wonder if the translation is more difficult or the poem, but we'll go into some of the themes that have been discussed both in the poem. In the poem as such. So, first of all, let's focus on the spiritual interpretation of the poem and how it's meant to be understood by the followers or the disciples of Saint Kabir. So, there are a number of similes that are used in this poem, and one simile is that of a swan. So this simile of swan refers to the soul, and it's a very popular simile in spiritual writings. Like you come across that in many other texts of different saints as well. A swan is a very exceptional bird. Its white color symbolizes purity. And when it floats in the water, it looks absolutely beautiful and comely. And whenever I come across a swan floating in the water, I just stand there and keep looking at the swan.
Right.
So, it has a tremendous sort of attraction and the quality of magnificence. So like a swan, our soul is pure, beautiful, and has tremendous power. The swan is supposed to be unaware of its beauty, and likewise, our soul is unaware of its power. So when we are born in this body, we identify ourselves as body, and we forget that we have a soul or that we have obligations to our soul. So we see in modern scientific or social sciences understanding that, we are sort of a composition of mind and body. And the theologians want you to understand that we are identified with our soul. So ideally, we are really sort of mind, body, and soul. And if you look at our body as as a physical sort of collection of atoms, then it takes you to different kinds of sciences. If you look at yourself as mind, and you see I think, therefore I am. It takes you to different kinds of ideologies and science. If you look at yourself as a soul, then it takes you, in another direction. For example, there's a poem by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, which says Kastvam Koham Kuta Ayata, like who are you, where do you come from, what is your identity. So Saint Kabir is sort of going in that direction, and he's saying that we are our soul, and it's important that we understand the origin of the soul, the journey of the soul, and what is it that we need to do to support that journey of the soul. And it's a very vital topic in theology. So this way of thinking leads us to spiritual awakening as we slowly start thinking about our soul. And Saint Kabir challenges us to think about our mystical history, about mysticism, and he offers us a hand, some help, and says to us, Chalo hamare saath, like join me on this spiritual path. And he describes this as a place of happiness, which almost seems utopian. It's like, when he says, Sanses oka jahan nahi vyape. So like he says, there's no doubt of any kind. There's no grief of any kind, and it's pure happiness. So in some ways, it's very utopian because our lives are constantly, filled with all sorts of problems and unhappiness. So the key in this poem is really these middle two lines where he says, awake, arise, and come with me, join me.
Right.
And in a way, he's asking us to join him in pursuing the purpose of life, which I believe is assumed meaning in this poem.
Right.
So the purpose of life, for everybody is doing bhakti, devoting oneself to pursuing the spiritual life, life of truth, which is devoted to God. So nevertheless, this is not a passive life. It's an active life of helping people while worshipping the spiritual principle. So it's not necessarily, any particular God that you're worshipping, but the fact that you're worshipping a spiritual principle, a God by any other name, is what's important. So it talks about a pure state of mind, which is a result of doing bhakti and, focusing on our soul. And this pure state of mind is undisturbed of doubts, jealousy, grief, or fear of death. It's a very positive state of mind, and it reflects the state of Brahman. So now here we are going back to, the philosophy of the Upanishads and the Vedas. There's the thing in the Upanishads, like the principle of Soha, like Saha Aham. I am that, or that is me. And that refers to the Brahman. And Saint Kabir is kind of making a reference to that philosophy. So as a result of this pure and positive state of mind, we receive some spiritual experiences, and they're described as things such as lovely smells, or the pleasant sound of bees or birds, and a relaxed mind, which is free of all worries. And then Saint Kabir says, if this is not happiness, then what is? The state of mind does not desire anything. It is not the longings, and is purely filled with contentment and happiness. And that is a complete. I mean, imagine being in a place where we feel that, all our goals are met and we have experienced everything that needs to be experienced. And from here on, it's only going to be a happy state of mind. So now the question comes down, and this is what I want to discuss in our modern relevance. Like, how does this kind of utopian concept apply to our modern life, and does it really apply to our modern life? So I guess one of the main things that we want to question is, why does Saint Kabir deny the fear of death if it's an inborn fear? And that is something one needs to investigate. I mean, obviously, we don't expect or we don't think that Saint Kabir is being irrational. So he must have some point there, something in his mind, and we need to explore that. So sometimes a sense of vitality actually encourages people to do their best. It allows them to live their life to its fullest extent. It allows them to lead a moral life as well. Because, we are sometimes concerned about our karma. If you do something wrong, we are going to get bad results. But if you do something good, we are going to get good results. And as one gets older, these principles matter much more, because in the youth, like, we have a body that's forgiving. We don't see the results of our wrong actions. Like, if we eat bad food, we don't immediately fall sick, or if we do something naughty, mischievous, something stupid, we don't always get results because we figure out how to get out of it. As we start, getting older, some of these capacities sort of vanish, and then it becomes much clearer the cause and effect, or the link between our actions and consequences. So the mortality, or the feeling of mortality, makes us do the best that we can, and it also allows people to spend their last stage of life not in misery or discomfort or guilt, but in sort of a life of contentment. It's a very powerful incentive for people to figure out the purpose of their life, to listen to the inner voice and follow their heart and soul in their chosen line of work. So what work we do is not as important sometimes as how we do it. Because, if you're using the philosophical principles and being ethical, then, we obviously get the result. So in the olden days, for example, like in the ancient times, people were assigned jobs, or they were assigned their line of work based on their religion, their caste, or their political situation. If they're working for a king, then they're either working as a soldier or as, some kind of a nobleman. But the jobs were assigned to everybody based on their whereas in modern times, we have a choice, like we choose our profession. And normally, as long as we choose a profession which is akin to our interests in life, then we have a far better chance of being happy and content in life. For example, like, if somebody loves to travel, they'll want to become a tour guide. Or if somebody loves to, lead a very comfortable lifestyle, they might go into hedge fund management or some kind of a, high-paying job if their total concern is about living a comfortable life.
Mhm.
Likewise, if we have some kind of a talent, then we try to pursue the talent and make that into our profession, and that gives us a lot of satisfaction. But sometimes, we get into different difficulties in the sense, like, if we pursue a life of our choice, then it may not have the, kind of comfort level that you want. But likewise, if you pursue a life which is solely focused on comfort, then it might also make us depressed because you don't really have much of an option. No matter what profession you choose, there are those trade-offs. So then we ask ourselves, when we are trying to choose a profession, is this going to make us content in life? And Saint Kabir would pose the same question as follows: will it serve the purpose of life, and will it satisfy my soul? So now let's just take an example of Saint Kabir. He was a weaver by profession. He continued his devotion to God. He continued to write his poetry, and he continued to focus on social welfare while keeping in mind that he owes a debt to his soul, not just to his body. So the profession of being a weaver allowed him to support his family and himself. And I believe, if I remember correctly, he was also born into that profession, like his father was a weaver as well. So that took care of, financial needs, physical needs. And then he owed some debt to his soul. And for that, he wrote poetry, he helped, and he led a very active life. So the pursuit of bhakti satisfies the debt to our souls. And when we purposefully take on bhakti as an essential aspect of our life, as the purpose of our life, then the fear of death reduces and can even vanish. So as we start realizing the power of self and develop a good understanding of what is important in life and what is not so important, then that makes us both happy and fearless in life. A happy mind sees only good things around us, and they can be a very pleasant atmosphere, pleasant smells and sounds. A happy person recognizes the kindness in other people much more quickly, is very grateful for what they have gotten in life. They see the goodness in the hearts and minds of other people instead of complaining about what could be going wrong. So others also react to such happy people with love and affection, and hence the fear of death kind of sort of vanishes in the sense that it's taken over by this happiness or contentment in life. And a life that is lived with a purpose. And in that sense, Saint Kabir says, please walk that path with us. So chalo hamare saath. So this is the kind of positive path that you get when you offer yourself to the life of bhakti. So I think that is the modern relevance of this poem. Although I have to say that this poem is quite complex in so many ways. I mean, it leaves leaves space for interpretation. Would you agree?
Yes, of course. Um, Especially this last line, right? Last couple of lines.
Mm-hmm.
हिया मदन बन फूल रहे हैं, सोहम
Aave soham
आवे
bas.
आवे सोहम बास.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty interesting one because so once we get rid of all our doubts and grief, as was mentioned in one of the previous lines of this poem,
Uh-huh.
and I think you also mentioned in your explanation when you were talking about the spiritual relevance of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as you very rightly said just now, that really has to be the purpose of our life. The main issue that I experience uh, in the world right now, and I'm sure many of us also might be experiencing that issue, is we all have a lot of baggages in our minds, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that baggage includes doubts,
Mm-hmm.
animosity,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, jealousy, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And the the ability to get ourselves out of it and come on top of it, or go above and beyond all these things, is what is the purpose of our life, meaning to achieve that ability, right?
Right.
So um, once you get rid of all these baggages from your mind,
Mm-hmm.
I think that is when you can experience soham, or the relaxed state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the comparison that Kabir Sahib draws is by saying that hiya madan ban phul rahe hain, meaning your mind is blossoming with flowers of contentment, flower of bliss,
Mm-hmm.
and flower of total relaxation,
Yeah.
right? Because your mind is totally light and free from all these
Yeah. All these
baggages
blemishes.
and blemishes.
Yeah.
So I think that really should be the purpose. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that our life is going to be smooth and straight and without any difficulty. No. I think that's the best part, right? That nothing has to be given on a platter.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody needs to work hard, everybody needs to face difficulties. And the best part is everyone knows about all these things,
Yeah.
like whatever we are talking about is not something that is totally new. Everybody knows. But the goal, in fact, all the great saints and spiritual gurus, whatever they have spoken, we all are aware about all those things. It's not that anybody is speaking something totally new or out of the world. But what makes them great, and what makes us get inspired by their teachings, is that they actually implemented those practices in their daily lives, which is what made them rise above all these things,
Yeah.
right? And
Totally.
that is the kind of inspiration that we need to draw, and I think that should be the purpose of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think whatever you have uh, uh, dwelt on in the last 8 episodes, including this one, I think all of us need to give some thought to it, and uh, not just listen to it as an episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we listen to something positive, and when we read something or when we listen to something, we say, oh wow, this is an amazing thought, great, wonderful. And as soon as the thing gets done, the video is over or the book is closed, the thing goes out of our mind.
Yeah. We forget about it.
We forget about it.
Yeah.
So that is something that we want to get rid of, meaning that habit is something that we want to get rid of, and we really want to cultivate the habit of trying to remember as to what was mentioned in that thought or in that explanation.
Yeah.
See if we can try to incorporate that into our lives. I think that is the real thing, and that's when we experience this feeling of hiya madan ban phool rahe hain,
Mm-hmm.
meaning the flowers are blossoming here in our mind. Ave soham bas. It's almost like realizing our own reality,
Yeah.
right?
It's
So,
also, it could also refer to the state of perfect health. Because when we are absolutely healthy physically and mentally, then
right,
we simply don't have negative thoughts. We have very little negativity.
absolutely.
And
In fact, yes, so you can even rephrase that sentence by saying that if you don't have any negativity, you will be in perfect health.
yes,
Because really, people don't understand this, but many a times ill health is actually caused by negativity.
mm-hmm.
I mean, there could be physical causes also for it, but once you get rid of any kind of negativity that you have, then all the physical causes will disappear gradually.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, we can enjoy our life, for a greater length, perhaps, if we don't carry all these, attributes with us, or the baggages, as you call them.
Absolutely. Right.
Right. So what happens is that, like, we all have these baggages, and they're different kinds and different intensity. And we also all have imperfect health. Like, nobody has perfect health. And if we start working on, like, cleaning up our mind, sort of detoxing our mind, then it really helps, detox our body as well. It's very difficult to find those things that are sort of bothering us. Because normally we like to think well of ourselves. We don't say to ourselves that we have doubts, we have grief, we have fear of death. But it's important to recognize that and try to work on it. And that helps you, have better immunity, have better health. But of course, nobody has it at all times. We do get into trouble from time to time. And then we should kind of use that opportunity. What do we need to improve upon?
True. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Anyway, that was just a
nice.
connection, but I just absolutely enjoyed how you paraphrased it. And that line is really beautiful. Yeah, madan bana phool rahe hain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to me that is like the climax of this poem, right? So
Mhm,
after all those previous lines that he talks about, and then finally
mhm,
he says as to what would be the state of your mind when you achieve all these things, as giving up doubts, giving up worries, and trying to realize your source from where you have come, and
mhm.
try to also know your destination, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's
Right,
also true that, all the saints believe that whether you're a theist or an atheist,
right.
believer in this bhakti or not, uh, we all have to, sort of, we are all on the same journey. Uh,
Same journey, yes.
yeah, and it's like, whenever you are wise enough to realize that, then you do something about it. Until then, you're kind of
Right,
in denial.
right,
So it's like, um, I mean, it has a lot of connections both in our modern life about theology, about spirituality.
right,
And it's important to sort of, like, place the poem in a perspective that we can understand it from different interpretations, different
right,
ways of looking at it. And if nothing else, it certainly has an absolutely beautiful poetic merit. And
right.
I'm sure when you sing it, we'll also understand the potential musical power of this poem.
Correct. So this poem is based on the rag Shuddha Sarang, and there is a little bit of touch of couple of other rags in this poem. There is a touch of rag Sham Kalyan in it, and a little bit of a touch of a rag Bahar when we talk about the last stanza, Hiya Madan Ban Phool Rahe Hain.
Wow.
Right? So that was the way I had interpreted it. And that's why Rag Bahar talks about spring, right? Blossoming of flowers and greenery all around.
Right.
So that signifies Bahar, and just to try to express that feeling in music, have tried to compose that particular stanza in Rag Bahar. Just that one line, Hiya Madan, in fact those two lines actually, Hiya Madan Ban Phool Rahe Hain, Aave Soham Baas, right? So, but the base rag is Rag Shuddha Sarang.
Wonderful.
And it is set to Bhajani Tal, 8 beats cycle. So,
Amazing.
with your permission, Ashwini, and
Looking forward to it. I'm on mute now.
yes.
Tableau level. Tableau and slash off. Button.
हंसा करो पुरातन बात
Speech off.
हंसा करो पुरातन बात हंसा करो पुरातन बात कौन देश से आया हंसा उतरना कौन घाट कौन देश से आया हंसा उतरना कौन घाट कहाँ हंसा विश्राम कियो है कहाँ हंसा विश्राम कियो है कहाँ हंसा विश्राम कियो है कहाँ लगाए आस हंसा करो पुरातन बात हंसा करो पुरातन बात सवेरा चलो हमारे साथ, अब ही हंसा चेत सवेरा चलो हमारे साथ, अब ही हंसा चेत सवेरा चलो हमारे साथ, संशय शोक वहाँ नहीं व्यापी, संशय शोक वहाँ नहीं व्यापी, नहीं काल कई त्रास, हंसा करो पुरातन बात, हंसा करो पुरातन बात। हिया मदन बन भूल रहे हैं, आवे सो हम पास, हिया मदन बन भूल रहे हैं, आवे सो हम पास। आ मदन बन भूल रहे हैं, आवे सो हम पास, मन भवरा जी है अरुझ रहे हैं, मन भवरा जी है अरुझ रहे हैं, मन भवरा जी है अरुझ रहे हैं, सुख की ना अभिलाष, हंसा करो पुरातन बात, हंसा करो पुरातन बात, हंसा करो पुरातन बात, हंसा करो पुरातन बात, हंसा करो पुरातन, करो पुरातन, करो पुरातन बात।
I don't think I heard anything more beautiful than this. It was so amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I love the last two lines. You're very right about putting Rag Bahar on them.
Yes. Yeah. So
It's really it's a blessing that you put in so much of your heart and soul in composing these poems. And
Well, I
sentiments
mean,
lovely.
no, but just as you do too, right? Because
Yeah.
this is something which is so close to your heart. So the
Oh,
efforts that
totally.
you take is so humongous. So, hats off to you for all your efforts and your research.
Well, thank you.
And
It's certainly a passion for sure.
absolutely. And, but thank you so much. And of course, please do come in with your feedback, your comments, right? And
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we would
until,
love your comments, your questions, and
yes,
will also give us a lot of encouragement to keep this project going forward.
project going. Yes, yes, absolutely. And until next month, when we meet
Mhm.
for our episode number 10,
Yeah.
till then, to you, Ashwini, and to all our viewers, please stay safe and healthy. And let's try to just get rid of all our baggages one by one. Maybe
Yes.
one baggage a month. I think that would be a good idea.
Well, thank you, Manoj, on that beautiful
Absolutely.
note. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Yes.